Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Welcome back to FSSH Adjunct Professor Lecture Series. We are moving to 8th series now. Wow, Alhamdulillah. Thank you for all your support and comments. Ask your friends, click family to join us. Don't forget to like and share our Facebook and subscribe our YouTube channel, okay? Again, I'm your MC for this series, Dr. Nurzana from School of Education, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, UTM. If you're looking for a supervisor and want to further your study in physics education, master and doctorate, you can contact me via email, nurzana@utm.my. Okay, and I will entertain you, inshallah, and also my team. All right, our talk today is about lifelong learning culture in Malaysia. What is our lifelong learning culture and why is it important? So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our moderator, Associate Professor Dr. Zaleha Abdullah, Senior Lecturer, School of Education, Faculty of Social Science and Humanities, UTM, to the studio to moderate this event. So, please welcome Dr. Zach. Hi, Dr. Zach.
Hello, thank you, Zana, for the introduction. Fly me to the moon. So let's fly together with Dato Freida again. Assalamualaikum and warm greetings to all. Welcome to the FSSH Adjunct Professor Lecture Series. Once again, we are honored to have yang berbahagia Dato Freida Muhammad Pilus with us today, an amazing lady who is very passionate about education. So this is the third time, Dato are here with us. And Dato has given talks before this on the Cempaka story, sharing her experience in establishing the first private school in Malaysia. So before we proceed with her talk, let me just give a brief introduction to our speaker, Dato Freida. Dato has served the government sector for 13 years before she resigned and started Cempaka School in 1983. As the president of the Malaysian Society for Educational Administration and Management, she has a wealth of experience in private education in Malaysia. So today, Dato will deliver her talk on lifelong learning culture in Malaysia. It is a much talk about topic in education, indeed, she will share her views in promoting lifelong learning for lifelong living. Okay, you need to understand that. She believes to advocate lifelong learning, every one of us, okay, must play our role. Therefore, let us hear from our distinguished speaker, yang bahagia Dato Freida. So Dato, the floor is yours, Dato.
Thank you very much, Dr. Z, and thank you, Dr. Nurzana and Dr. Professor Fatin. It's indeed wonderful to be here again, and this is my third time to share a few things that I've learned, that I've gone through. Now today, the topic that I've selected is towards a lifelong learning culture for Malaysia. So if you look at the title itself, it immediately conjures an image of running a marathon of learning from as early as when you're in the womb until, I must say, until the last good night for the whole country. Now, what is lifelong learning? Why is it important? How to have a lifelong culture? The role of schools, family, community, and the people in academia. And then we can talk about lifelong centers that we can have all over the country. And finally, I will end the talk as a wrap up on the principles of lifelong learning and the takeaway that you can have after this lecture. Now, what is lifelong learning? According to UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning, it is the ongoing, voluntary and self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. Yes, it's either for yourself or for professional reasons. And then there are many forms of learning. You have the formal education, you have informal learning, you have vocational learning and training, and you have professional training, and so on. And all this supports ourselves, our families, our community, and maybe just even for fun. But why is it important to have a lifelong learning culture in Malaysia? Now, you must understand with better medical science services and innovation in medical science, we live longer. In Malaysia, the lifespan, the life expectancy in 2020 was 76.22 years. So can you imagine 76 and 22 years? It can then be said that if you retire at 60, you would have more than a decade of productive life. Now, if you don't do anything about this, more than a decade of your productive life, then you cannot lead a meaningful and purposeful life, and you cannot contribute to society. Now, let's look at our workforce. There are two groups of people, the working class and the top professional class of workers. And what's common in these two groups? The difference is that one group may still have to work for a living, yeah? They don't have enough savings and they still got to go on working because they have dependents, yeah? Now, the other group of people may not have the pressure of work to earn a living, They have a lot of free time. But in both groups of these people, they have a wealth of knowledge, skills, and years of experience, and hopefully some wisdom. However, there has to be an upgrade of certain skills. Like, they have to learn more on how to use digital devices and so on. To be a productive member of this technology-driven society in 2021. So then we look at why is it important for Malaysia to have a learning population? Why should learning be a culture to be nurtured and harnessed? Now let's look at our society. We ask, why do children go to school and why do parents send them to school? You see, we always say, well, you go to school to study, and the parents send you to school to study, to get good grades, and then get a good job and live happily ever after. But that's not anymore, You see, now it doesn't mean that you have a degree, you can get a good job. Population need to have a broader and wider knowledge and skills and mastery of many skills to be productive. There must be a desire to learn, to upgrade their skills, to learn new things to be useful to society. We may have many courses that you can take. Universities do provide, I think, certificate courses, diploma courses, even degree and PhD courses for you to take anytime after you retire or anytime when you're working. So, but is there a desire for this? Is there a desire to learn more? Is there a love and joy for learning? I think there is a gap here. Many people do not understand that when you are a perpetual student, you become a more interesting person. You can learn to solve a lot of problems and you look at the world in a different light. So actually, we do need a workforce from a community of learners so that, this continuum of learning can go on and a contribution to society can go on. You must remember, we are a developing country and we need each and every one of us to contribute. Then we ask, is the formal learning in school enough? Are we planting that seed of joy for learning, that joy of achievement? Really? I think there is a gap. We say in Malaysia we have about 99% literacy rate. Yes, people can read and write. Maybe they read in English or in Malay or in any other languages, and they can write, they can do simple arithmetic. But that's all. What have they done with this skill that they have? Do they read? Do they read around the subject? Do they read anything and everything in all genres to broaden their minds and to learn what's happening out there and how they can solve problems and see what they do? Do they have a great, when you read, you actually develop your sense of imagination, and you learn a lot more about other things, and eventually actually you learn to solve problems. So can you imagine, 32 million people in Malaysia, the whole group, all of us actually staying a student and great learners of everything. Can you imagine how we can contribute to society, how we can actually solve a lot of problems? So just think about that. That is why it's very important. Now, when we talk about this, we also must talk about funding. How do we do this, you see? And according to UNESCO, many countries worldwide actually spend only 1% of the money that's allocated for education for lifelong learning, and only 23% that spend more than 4% of their allocation. So that's very, very little. And I feel that that is something we have to think seriously, because now with people living longer, and healthier, we have a wealth of people. We have a group of people, who can do wonders, who can contribute to our development. So now, let's find out, let's look at ourselves, look at yourself, our individual self. Now, how can we become a lifelong learner? It is something that we actually need to embrace. It is something that we need to develop, Now, we need to change our mindset. We must change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and there are lots of research on this, and the most famous one by Carol Dweck, when she mentioned about there should be a shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Now, what is a fixed mindset? A fixed mindset is a person who believes that their talents and abilities are fixed, so you cannot grow. That's it. You know that. You know something and you repeat it. Like sometimes people go and ask for a job, and I always ask, okay, what's your experience? They say, oh, I've got 30 years of experience. And I say, yes, but I do not want it to be 1 year experience repeated 30 times, So that is not really having a growth mindset. So you're doing the same thing all the time, year in, year out. You cannot solve problems because things change, situation change, people change, and your solutions must also change according to the problems. So a growth mindset means that you must always be a student, and learning to learn is the most powerful tool and foundation to lifelong learning. We must view learning as a continuum. It is a marathon. It's not a full stop. It's not like, you've got a degree, you've got a string of degrees, and that's a full stop. It's a marathon. It goes on. We learn everything and anything all genres, we read books of all genres. We are always in progress. You see, sometimes we make mistakes, but it doesn't matter. We learn from it because we are not perfect. We strive to become better, but we are not perfect. We always work in progress. But learners also must be disciplined, must have grit and stamina. You must always have a goal. You want to do certain things. You have a mastery of that goal, and it is wrong to say that the traditional notion that somebody is a genius, somebody is not. I'm not good in this. That person is good in that. You can be good in anything. It's just that you just got to start, do it, and go forward. And you must recognize that expertise are built through time and practice. It's not just enough to read, think about it, and not do anything about it. You have to practice, you have to do it, And you also must acknowledge that everyone has the potential to learn and grow at every stage. Now, how do we do this? How do we do this at school level, community level, work level, community level, at a nation level, nationwide? Now we say that we've got a growth mindset. We are ready for this, and we need to do this. And people in academia, people who are at the professional level, they have a lot more to contribute with their years of experience, their skills, and the things they have done, and a little wisdom. They are the ones who should drive this. Now, how do we do this? Well, we must have learning centers. We must identify lifelong learning centers all over the country. And where can we get these centers? It could just be schools after hours. It could be community halls. It could be suraus and mosques, churches, places where you have space, where people can gather to learn something. Now, it's not enough just to identify these centers. We need strategies. We have to plan it properly. How to use the learning spaces, make use of these places within the community. It must be within the community because you can't expect them to go all the way out, maybe drive somewhere, go somewhere. Some people don't even have means, money to go. So you need to do it in the community, This learning centers should be available all over the country. It should be accessible, therefore closest to big populations in that community. It must be adaptable and affordable, right? Yes, affordable. You need money to do this, So now we have got all these centers. We need to have a database. We need to study who are the people in this community? What do they need? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? And then we got to put programs together tailored for them. It has to be adaptable for the people there, And on top of that, we need laws also to govern the learning centers, because then you talk about the roles and responsibilities of government. Here maybe the state government, the district officers, and then also the providers of adult learning. So here, many of you in the university, you have a very big role to play. For instance, I'll give you an example. Now, supposing in a little place where there have a lot of little shops, a lot of little guys, selling tom yum, for instance. And if you do actually go around, all these shops are actually selling the same thing, they're always selling tom yum or nasi lemak or whatever it is, but they have no idea of maybe doing a little bit of bookkeeping. They have no idea about marketing. They have no idea about basic things like cleanliness. They have no idea of maybe even, looking after the perishable goods that we have, and so on. So these are things that maybe uh, people who have done business before, uh, people who know a little bit, who've done accounting, can teach these people, can teach them how to market their product well, how to make their gram more pleasing, how to be competitive, you see. So that is something that we can do for the small shops, small guys in the kampong. So this is very good for the community. Now, that's an example of, it's a very small example. But there must be many youngsters there who have finished schooling, they are working, but they need to upgrade their skills. They need to learn new skills. They need to learn how to solve their problems. So people in the universities can go there, and maybe we should have a little project and to see how this can be done. Now, we also need money. Yes, how do we get money? We can have partnership, maybe with government. Maybe there are investors in the private sector. And of course, the university plays a very big role as the adult educators. And then on top of that, we need to actually have proper records, and we need to monitor, because we need to follow up to see whether the programs are doing well and what changes need to be done, and so on and so forth. So record keeping, we need to monitor, we need to actually do some documentation. All this has to be done. So it has to be properly planned in order to do this. So there you are. It's very important for us in Malaysia to set up all these learning centers. And maybe it's time for us, also time for government to work with groups of people, with NGOs, to see how this can be done in all the little kampongs in Malaysia. So can you imagine if 32 million of us are great learners, we can solve anything and everything in Malaysia, all the problems. Because it's very easy. If you have a certain policy, people are learned enough or educated enough or know enough to understand and follow certain policies that has been set out, because then they can think for themselves. And this is very important. So there you are, from school, community, and to the nation. But very important actually, in school we need to inculcate the love of reading, because reading opens up the world. And when that has become a culture in school and in families, for instance, then it is done. Then that's done, the work is much simpler. And there will be this hunger, to learn more, to be curious about things. And eventually, we learn to solve all our problems. So nothing is impossible. So with that, let's have some questions. Thank you very much. I think, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Yang Bahagia Dato, for the rich sharing. I like it when you mentioned that we should build a growth mindset to wanting to learn more. then only can we make a positive contribution to our community and society strategically. Yeah, strategically, it's not like you simply go there and make contribution, but you should properly plan what sort of contribution you're making so that it will last and sustain longer. Yeah, Dato? So I'm sure the audience are eager to hear more from you, Dato. Let's open for the Q&A session. Shall we take at least 3 questions? Let's have a look. Any questions from the floor? If not yet, okay, I'll just take out from here, from the Facebook. Yang bahagia Dato, okay, let's see. What skills do you highly recommend teachers, okay, these are for teachers, to develop in order to improve themselves?
Oh yes, I've always said this over and over again. You need to read, you know. And many teachers, I think, well, I wouldn't say just teachers, I think majority of Malaysians, reading is never a habit because you see, it's not part of our culture. Well, many years ago when I was a little girl, you know, in the kampong, so we don't read because we don't have books, you know. And then even in school, you know, reading, I only started in school that reading is very important, where we have readers. Now, at the moment now, I think schools do have readers. But what is also very important is the choice of books. From what I've seen, I visited a few schools a few years ago, about 38 schools, you know, and I went to this class and they were having a reading class. They were just reading. And I look at the books and I said the books are actually not well selected because you see the classroom, they had boys and girls, but the books are all about princesses, about about things that girls might like, you know, but boys might not like this kind of books. So I think in order to inculcate the love of reading, you need to actually select the books properly. But of course, the teachers must first read the books, they themselves must love to read. And it's not just reading the textbook, but reading around it, you know. Like for instance, if you're reading, you're learning about the French Revolution, for instance, you know, why don't you teach the children to read The Tale of Two Cities, you know? Read around the subject so that it becomes alive, it becomes more interesting, you know. So reading, I think people take it lightly. And what do they read? Maybe they read the berita apa, about celebrities maybe only. Or maybe they just read the sports pages only, you know, and that sort of thing. I would like to tell you a story actually about my parents. My father, at the age of 80 something, he had his cataract done and something went wrong, you know, with the surgery, and then he lost his eyesight actually. Eyesight, he could only see shadows. So he couldn't read, you know. Although he was very healthy, he exercises, he can do push-ups, he's really healthy because he was a police officer. So I suppose that idea, that discipline of keeping fit was there. And he couldn't read, you see. So what happened was my mother read for him. I see, they were in the 80s, you know. My father passed away at 90 and my mother passed away at 93. Now look, she had to read for him. So she had to read all the pages on politics, on business, on sports. So by doing that, she herself enriched her own, wealth of knowledge, you see. And that was quite I think was quite wonderful, quite a blessing. And not only that, she actually had stacks and stacks of exercise books where she kept a diary. She kept a diary actually. On one side of the exercise book, she would write in Romanized letters, you know, and sometimes she would write in English. and on the left side, she will write in Jawi. So you see, that kept her mind very sharp. And my mother in the 40s actually took English classes, you know, uh, night classes to learn English. Why? Because in those days, all the big bosses were all Mat Saleh. They were British officers. And my father was a police officer. So in order for her to communicate and to socialize with the wives of all the white officers, she had to learn English. So can you imagine, in the 40s, this lady had already the desire and the urge to learn a new language from scratch. You see, I was from the kampong. My brother and I, we learned English on our own, you know. So you see, if you're a teacher, you need to be that learner. You need to be that student for life, you know. And you need to be 2-3 steps of your students. You need to, if you are not good in your English, although you are a Bahasa Melayu cikgu or cikgu sejarah, cikgu agama, or whatever it is, take up English. What's wrong in another language, you know? At the moment now, I am doing French and I'm doing Spanish. You see? Yeah, so I'm doing French and Spanish. And recently I actually did visual arts at IB level, you know. Why do I do this? Because I thought it's one thing I'm interested, I'm always hungry to learn something new. But while learning French and learning Spanish, there are similarities in the two languages, and I learned a lot more about the Spanish people and learn more about the French people and why their language is structured as such, you know. And I hope maybe one day I can go to a French speaking or Spanish speaking country to actually speak these two languages. And why did I do art? And while learning art, I learned other things as well. I learned how to solve problems actually. I learned to look things in a different perspective, you know. Art is also about techniques, technology, and there are lots of things that you learn in art that you can apply in your life. So can you imagine, if you take art seriously, eventually you can be a curator of an art gallery. You can even go into art and finance. And then while you go into art and finance, you learn a lot more about the financial world, because you got to learn to know what the people who would buy art pieces. You have to learn a lot about art history, you know. So it's a very big world out there. So if you start reading many types of books, you are exposed to many varied work space that you can get into, you know. So I think the students now in school, undergraduates, teachers, please broaden your view, you know. It's not just so narrow, because then you will not be a productive contributor to society.
Good advice, Dato. Yeah. So those in the science stream, perhaps mathematicians, you know, it's time for you to learn art. It might helps you to enhance your creativity. You know, you have the critical thinking now. It's time for you to develop the creativity. How you do this? So Dato have suggested there are many techniques.
Yes, and not only the art, there is also science in art. Because there is also science in art. What is science actually? Science is doing something empirically, something that you test, something that you do systematically. That is what you mean by that, you know. People think science is just chemistry, biology, physics, you know, but now everything's intertwined. Everything is together. Even when you talk about performing arts, when you talk about doing filming, or you're putting a show on stage, everything works, you know. There is architecture into it, because you design sets, you know. There is even sports in it because you need to be tough, you need to be fit, like you see the great actors, they can sing, they can dance, they can do anything, and then there is maths also, when they choreograph dancers, the angles that they have to use, the camera angle they have to use. Oh, there's so many things in filmmaking. I also tried a little bit on how to do on film, so I learned a little bit as well. So I think we need to enrich our lives, even as a teacher, so that you can be a more interesting person and you can see things in many, many perspectives. So that if you have to produce a program, for instance, on TV, a lesson on TV, you can be more creative and innovative on how you can put this program instead of just standing in front of the screen, reading a script and trying to give your lesson. Because it is not giving a lesson on screen or online is not face to face. It's not like face to face. It's not like just putting you in front of them, just delivering the speech. It is more than that, So there you are. And I think people in the university have a lot to contribute, because you can drive this learning centers all over the country. But like I said, we need to study it, we need to plan it well, we need to have a proper curriculum, syllabus, and it must be adaptable, and we need to find money to do it, and it must be sustainable. It cannot be just like a campaign or a project or a slogan sekejap aja. We just do it for after the project and that's it. There is no follow-up. I can also give you an example about my nephew, you see. He went to Africa many years ago, and then he discovered that that village, this village that he went to, they had a library. The ketua kampung, wanted the children to read a lot. So the children were very good. They taught them to read and they loved to read. But the books they were reading were very old books. So somebody must have donated them these books a long time ago. These are books in the World War II. So they were learning things that is old, that's not really relevant, So what my nephew did was, he went back. You see, he was at that time based in Spain, but then he got lots of contacts in America. He graduated in America to get publishers to donate books, current books. He was invited to Oxford to give a speech and so on and so forth. So all these people donated lots of books, and people donated money, because then you got to transport the books to Africa, and then he trained the people, the ketua kampung, the pengulu, whatever, in all this little village in Africa to start this project. And now, can you imagine, they're reading amazing books, English books, and the English is so good, and they're so excited, and that you could see that the children are hungry for it, because children by nature, they are very curious about things, they like to explore, they like to discover, they like to experiment. But then when they go to primary school, secondary school, we kill this, we kill this by giving them examinations. I'm not against examination, but what sort of examinations do we give? It's not just to test content. It should be skills. It should be different. We should design our examinations differently. So these are the things that we can do in Malaysia. We may have libraries in little in some kampung, but who goes there? Is the library living, in the sense that is there somebody there to promote books, the latest books, tell stories, get the children interested, get the children to tell us what they read? Is that happening? I doubt it. There are libraries with lots of books, but do children really go there to read? Do children get to know what's the latest books, the bestsellers or whatever it is?
So
Nobody
this is
knows.
the role of adults, parents, where they should come
Oh
in.
yes, parents
Yeah.
is yes, doctor. Parents is very very important because you see in Malaysia, it has not been our culture. We don't have a reading culture in the family, And then it's I'm too busy, da 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 da, that sort of thing. Selalu tak ada time, but we must make time. We have to make time. In the West, we always see on TV, kan, before the children go to sleep, they have a bedtime story until the child goes to sleep. How many of us do that? Maybe the younger parents do that now. But even then, how many really make it like a real macam dia punya habit lah, they have to do that, So,
Satisfied.
yes, so I think it's very important to have this habit of reading before the children go to sleep. A reading family, you read together, and then after reading, you discuss the books. It's not just reading the book, but discuss the book, talk about it, and so on and so forth, and different genres of books, you see. So I think this is one of the things that we should do. So the first 3 years in school, standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, tak payah buat apa. Just read, read English books, read BM books, and so on and so forth, you see. And then things will work out naturally.
Okay, Dato, this actually relates to a question from Professor Yoki Jar. Okay, this to do with the age gap, So she asked, Dato, do you agree that the millennials have more drives to be continuous or lifelong learners than the adults because the workforce demands the younger cohort to use information for creation and innovation in their jobs? What do you think, Dato?
Yes, I'm not so sure whether that is true for all the young people, I think we need to do some sort of a survey that the young people are into this. But most probably they are better off than the older people. But then you must also understand the older people have got a wealth of experience. They've got a wealth of experience. They have got skills, because experience is something you cannot get overnight. You cannot buy it, you cannot get it overnight. It goes through your life. So experience is very important. And then you also, I also cannot think that, I don't know, maybe it's true that young people are more hungry for knowledge and so on and so forth, but we must also understand it's not just like to read, but they must have a mastery of the skills. They must read different genres of books, like magazines. What sort of magazines do you read? You can have light reading, but sometimes you need to have heavy reading. You need to actually plow through a book, to understand more. Yes, and I think both sides. If you think that the older people in your family is not like that, and if you are, then why don't you interest the older people in your family? Tell them about this book that you've read. What is it so interesting? I do this very often in school. Like for instance, reading history through 6 beverages, learning history through 6 beverages. And that's quite interesting. You learn about coffee, you learn about wine, you learn about tea and how it has developed over history, and how it has brought different countries into civilization, actually into something new. So you learn actually the history of the country through these beverages. How many people would think like that, But if you read this and you tell them, I read about this thing, and then after that, why don't you finish the book? Maybe they might be interested in that. Yes.
Right. So you also point out the importance of mentor-mentee technique here,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, yes, very important. Like, for instance, the power of the word. Recently, I had a class talking about independence, and then, as you know, Amanda Gorman suddenly became so well known all over the world because she read this poem. Um, then I said, why not we do this? And I had a class online. Let's compare her book, read her book, her poem, and then let's look at our own poet, Osman Awang, talking about independence. So then the children started doing this, trying to see the similarities of diversity in America, and then diversity in our country, how we can get united. And I told her the struggles are maybe similar in many ways. So if you were to change some of her words, like America change it to Malaysia, it might apply to us. And then I told them to reconstruct the poem and then do their own poem. And then look at Usman Awang's poem. Humble, we were humble, where he said that we can only be, we cannot just talk about freedom, but we must embrace it and we must do something about to free ourselves from having this jiwa hamba selepas robohnya kota Melaka. So the power of the word. So therefore then now children can see that, wow, this is very, very interesting. This is very profound in the sense that with very few words, you can see so much for so many things. As you know, when they say the pen is mightier than the sword. So you read about the French Revolution, how these writers actually brought down the whole country, through their writings. So I think we should be like that. We should get our people really, really interested in reading. Yes.
And then again about reading, Dato, Dr. Doria Abdullah. Okay, she have two questions here, Dato, related to what you just said. What is on your current reading list? She loves to read, so she would like to know the first question. The second one, should the government incentivize lifelong learning, example, providing bursaries or discounts to people? Okay, I also
Yes.
want to know the first one.
The first one, of course, everybody is talking about this book. I don't know whether I should say it online here.
Lifelong learning. Okay.
Well, I'm just going through the memoirs of Tommy Thomas. So some people say like this, some people say like that. Well, to me, it's just a memoir. If you have your own thinking, it's up to you to take what it is. So no need to make such a big fuss of it. You have your own thoughts about it. That sort of thing. Well, my current list also now is little books, French books and Spanish books, and it's very funny actually some of the stories in those books. No, okay. You mentioned about whether government should incentivize lifelong learning. Yes, like I said just now, UNESCO said that many countries spend only 1% of the money allocated for education for lifelong learning. Now, if we say that this is so important, because you see, as people get older, like I said, the 2 decades of life after retirement, if they are not active, then they become sick. And this actually can be quite difficult for the country in terms of health services. So we need to keep our minds sharp and alert. We need to strengthen our body and keep fit. We need to have that body corporate We need to socialize. We need to communicate. We need to be together, you know. And then we need also to say, like I say, like in my school, mind, body, and soul. We need to nurture our soul in terms of to appreciate nature, to appreciate good art, good music, to appreciate good things, you know. So it is very important to keep uh, the population, you know, not only to have a long lifespan, but the health span as well. And these are people who can contribute to society. So government must give incentives. If you give money to school children for textbooks, you know, why don't you give us money when we buy books? Tapi janganlah beli magazine, apa nama magazine, I don't know.
Cosmo lah.
Yes, yes. You know, maybe we need magazines like Time magazine ke, or something like that, you know, Newsweek ke, or something heavy, you know, and then books, for instance, even novels, you know, non-fiction books or documentary books or self-development books, give some kind of incentives. But what is very important is for people in the university to actually now work towards having learning centers and getting funding for it, you know, because you need money. Without money, you can't do this, because there are many, many people, and I feel very, very sorry for people at that age to still have to earn a living, you know. But if you need to earn a living, you need new skills, you need to upgrade your skills, you need to learn new things in order for you to help yourself, to sustain yourself, your family, you know. So I think government plays a very big role. I do understand in the last blueprint there was money, if I'm not mistaken, maybe about 8 million or something like that. I'm not sure the exact figure. But there was talk of lifelong learning, and there was some money allocated to it. But I do not know what programs was done, or whether they actually did start on any program on lifelong learning. I really feel that we should do this, because it's such a waste to have so many people who are going to live longer and they cannot contribute, because one, people who can contribute, like people in academia, they cannot contribute because there's no platform for them to contribute. Okay, and then there are people in the civil service, they've got tons of experience, you know. They've got the knowledge, the experience, and hopefully all of us have some wisdom, but we have no platform to do this. Like now, you all are in the university, you give lectures, you have the platform. And I'm so lucky and blessed that I have my own institution, that I have a platform to do this, you know. But there are many people who are still active, who are still sharp, but they have no platform for this. Now, I'd like to give you also an example in Japan. I went to Japan, Totoke-en, they call it, you know, this center, this kindergarten. Actually, it's a kindergarten. And this kindergarten, the children in the kindergarten, they're about, I think, 8 years and below, or 6, 7 years and below, and they are shirtless. They don't wear shirts, you know. They just wear pants. And this was winter, you know, autumn, winter, was cold. But they believe to toughen the children, they don't wear shirts, you know. And it's great, because in this kindergarten, and this is more than 100 years old, you know, this place, they have the old people and the young people. So they have the old people, it's like an old folks home with a kindergarten. And these old people, the average age of these people was 85. At that time when I went there, is 85 years old. The oldest is 105, 110 or something like that. So I visited this place this morning. They were doing exercise. The children were doing exercise. So some of the old people, those who can stand up, followed them. These are serious exercise. And some who couldn't follow them were on wheelchairs, but they're doing with their hands. And they did this for 1 hour. It was rigorous. It was, and I was there as an observer. Now, after that, what happens? The children rush to the old people, okay? Some of them sat on their laps, some hold their hands, and one of them also rushed to me since I'm one of the old people. And they were
You're not
so,
old.
yeah, and they were so happy and they greeted me, although it was in Japanese, but they were so like as if, oh my goodness me, so nice to see you, and so on and so forth. And I could see the old people and the young people together, and there was so much joy, there's so much love between them, you could see that. And in this place, there was a little garden, they plant vegetables. The young kids, these are young kids, they're 3-4 year olds. They go there and take the turnips, the carrot, the salad, and so on. They wash it, they clean it. And the old people will come and cut it with them, cook with them, and do things with them. So you see, it is quite amazing because then they learn so many things. The old people learn a lot of things from the young people learn a lot of things with the old people. And
Again,
and also when there is a death, somebody dies, the young people actually learn how to mourn, how to love, how to have a sense of gratitude, and to pay homage to somebody who died, to give respect. Now all this is actually inculcating good values in the young. And the old people also feel useful. They have self-esteem, they feel that, wow, I can do this. I'm doing something worthwhile. And one of them actually does woodwork. His hobby is woodwork. He had his own toolbox, and he had his own little boy working with him, and he taught this boy to do a lot of things. And then another lady who could do origami, and she was doing origami with her own little kid. So I think there's so much we can learn, but there must be a meeting of minds between the old and the young, that sort of thing.
so it's like learning the human values. I mean, you can't
Yes.
learn all this from textbook, isn't it? So this is one of the
No.
methods of lifelong
Yes.
learning, which is quite
Yes,
good.
we need to inculcate this sense of, like you said, gratitude, empathy, humility. You can only do this by doing it, by seeing it, by feeling it. And that was really beautiful.
Right. Dato, shall we take another question? Just one more from Azliana Muhammad Azlan. Dato, what do you think of the use of the gadgets to inculcate reading or learning culture? Well, we have ebooks these days, right? Documentaries, etc. So other than the books, what do you think of
Yes.
that?
Well, I can talk through experience. Okay. When I travel, I do like to bring books. And at one time, I'll bring about 8-10 books, and it's so heavy. And I think it doesn't matter whether it is physical books or online books or e-books. And some people say that, oh, they like to feel the paper, they like to smell the paper, they like to feel they're carrying the books, and so on and so forth. Well, if that is what you like, so be it. But personally, for me, I love my ebooks. Why I love my ebooks? Because I really do not, the hard copy, I've got to wear glasses. I cannot read without my glasses. But the ebooks, I can pinch it, I can make it bigger. And what's so wonderful about the ebooks that I like, I can get the definition immediately. I can because you can do that on an ebook. You can have 100 ebooks to take for you with you when you travel. And I also like audio books. Sometimes I don't feel like reading, I just listen, but whatever it is, whether you listen to it or whether you read it, your mind is working, your imagination is working, so it doesn't really matter to me. I love my ebooks. Although people say, oh, there's something is going to happen to your eyes. Well, I'm 74, so I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years' time or whatever. I've been using ebooks for a long time. So, well, this is the new technology. Why deny it? Why deny this? And then the ebook, to do online, you can, it goes beyond the hard copy that you have, if you have 10 hard copies, but if you put it in your iBooks, you can have 1,000 books, so that is, and you don't have to carry a dictionary because it's already in your ebook. That's what I like. So it doesn't really matter.
So just read as long as you read.
Yeah, just read and don't read rubbish. and then also, like in our school, we teach our children, all that is in print is not all true. So you have to be very careful, very discerning when you read. So that means when you read anything, especially if it's non-fiction, especially if it's somebody writes something, you must think, is it that fellow's opinion? Is it a fact? Is it propaganda? What is it? So you need to think. So, the more you read about a lot of things, then oh, this fellow is really writing rubbish, So it's very important to have that skill to see whether is it true, is it just propaganda, or is it fake? Now there's so many fake news around, and so on and so forth. And you can only do that if you do a lot of reading, because you can actually cross-check and collaborate. That's what's in your mind.
True. Dato, there's more questions, but I don't think we have enough time to entertain all. But there's one from Siti Rokia, but hopefully Dato could have a look later in Facebook. She's interested with knowing how to set up a school, just like what you did.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Actually, Prof, I would like to say that if they have any questions at all, do email it to me and we can chat. We can, maybe when after the COVID, I would really love to go to UTM, and then we can have a real chit chat over there, a real, get together. So if you have any questions, just email it to me. It's very easy. My name, Freida, remember it's EIDA, at Cempaka, CEM, yeah, PAKA.edu.my. But spell my name correctly, FREI, because some people spell it FRIED. So I always tell them, please do not fry me.
Yeah. Everyone noted, get it right. Okay, Dato. Well, Dato, we're running out of time, Dato. Thank you so much for the lively and engaging session. Your insight has definitely helped us to understand further the importance of lifelong learning in enriching lives. Yeah, we're talking about lives. So we are a lifelong learners, right, Dato? Whether we want to continually learn or not, it all starts from us. So with the sharing given by Dato, hopefully as educators, most of the listeners are educators, we can be reminded to continue to play our role in nurturing lifelong learning for the nation continued growth and development. So Dato, thank you again, and we hope to hear more. Okay, we would love to hear more from you, perhaps with another topic related to, I don't know, to the future of learning, perhaps. Yeah, Dato. Would you like to say a few words, Dato, before I pass the session back to our MC?
You can say that we are all set to do something great, yeah? So now we say that the overarching principles of lifelong learning is Everyone can learn. Everyone has potential to grow. Learning opportunities should be everywhere, not just limited to schooling during our childhood and adolescent age. Adolescent years. It should be forever, like I said, until our last good night. Two things need to change to support a shift to learning for life: our mindset and the systems that we have. We need to provide opportunities and the platform. So learning for life helps prepare our people for tomorrow's problems and to solve the most pressing ones. So with that, thank you very much for having me, and I'll see you again.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dato. Beautiful. So definitely we're going to see you again. We're hoping for a face-to-face session after the
Yes.
MCO. Yeah, Dato, we'll look forward to that.
Right.
So again, thank you Yang Bahagia Dato. We wish you all the very best. And I shall pass the session back to Dr. Norzana. Back to you, Dr. Norzana.
Thank you. All right, thank a lot, Dato Freida and Dr. Zach. I think that was a very nice sharing and topic for today. Lifelong learning is something that important to our life. Hope we are choosing a good decision every time we do something because the impact is long lasting. Okay, we are at the end of the event. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for all your questions, nice words, and support. I really appreciate it. That's all for today. We have many sessions to go in future. There are lots of lecture series, inshallah, with many interesting topics. Our next lecture program is from Professor Dr. Kit S. Tabor on 22nd of March with the topic, What is Constructivist Teaching? At 4:30 p.m. So please save the dates, guys. All right? So with that, I thank everyone, audience, lecturers, students, stakeholders. Thank you for watching us. Until we meet again, Assalamualaikum. Bye.